Hello and welcome to Soups and Sabers. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, talking Peacemaker Season 2 is Chris. All right, take Chris.
I am doing absolutely wonderful. Might be my favorite episode of the show to talk about. Might be a little recency bias, but yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, we are talking about Season 2, Episode 2. A man is only as good as his bird, which was written by James Gunn, directed by Greg Mottola, uh, known for directing Superbad. Greg Mottola. He also directed a few episodes of Arrested Development as well. So there you go. And it premiered August 28th, 2025 on HBO Max. Okay, so let's get into the discussion here of the episode. I guess start with general thoughts, and then we can kind of go into the deeper plot and stuff. But I
Mhm.
think you kind of alluded to what you just felt of the show. But so best episode of the
Yeah,
show.
it's up there with any of the good ones in season one. It's a great episode. I thought it was a great blend of funny and serious, and like it made sense. Like you start out with Flag, and then you finding out what happened, and you know, um, everything in the story made sense, and then you get to the whole Eagly of it all, and it's just amazing. So that might have been the coolest thing I've ever seen an animal do in a television show. So, yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. Um, I have very little negative to say about this episode. Like it was just a good time in front of the TV.
Yeah, I think I might actually agree with you that I think this is my favorite episode of the show. It is without a doubt, I think for me, the funniest episode of the show, due to a certain addition to the cast that we'll get into here. But we'll
Hmm.
talk more about his character later. But Tim Meadows as Langston Fleury absolutely killed me every time he delivered a line, just delivering it the Tim Meadows way. Um, and I seen some people say this one was a little like slow or filler. And again, I think we're James Gunn says this so well when he mentioned on his podcast. Movies are all about plot, while the TV shows are all about character. So while this may not be like a huge plot episode, even though it is, I still think. But what is so special about this episode, and I think one reason why I really enjoyed it, is the character moments, which we get a lot of, and being able to dive into their psyche a little bit more. And I think that's why after these first two episodes, I'm kind of leaning on that this season is setting up to be better than season one at this rate, because I feel like where we're being introduced to these characters again is a very interesting place. And you know uh seeing where their development can go from here, this feels, when I say this, I don't mean this in a certain way, I guess, but this feels like the Empire Strikes Back of Peacemaker this season so far. And what I mean is, like, everything ended
Hmm.
up so happy at the end of season one, and we kind of enter season two with the characters kind of drifted apart a bit. And it seems like, with the way that Harcourt is kind of pushing him away a bit here, we are going to go into some very interesting places. And while the first season was this, like, I think James Gunn says, like, body horror sci-fi thing, this one is more sci-fi fantasy, where we're exploring the different dimensions, and we're probably going to focus a lot more on the character stuff. And the main antagonism of this season is probably going to be the inner fight in Peacemaker of whether to stay in that Earth or go back home. And I think there'll obviously be other antagonists like Langston Fleury, like Rick Flag Sr., etc. But I think the driving force of this is going to be the 11th Street kids having to kind of win him back over and bring him home instead of this perfect universe he's in. So I think it sets up for a very interesting, very character-driven season, which I'm very excited for.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you said there. I think this is a show that like if the first episode was a field goal opening drive, this is ending the first quarter 10-0. Like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're picking up momentum. I think what I like about the second episode was that now that we have the characters where they are, you kind of it feels more lived in. Like you're not trying to figure out where the characters are. You're not explaining what happened between the seasons. You're in where they're at, and Christopher Smith is in just this absolute state of misery, and it matches so hardcore with Harcourt. Really, it just like, and he even says it. You're looking for a fight. You're broken. He sees her, and she can't take it. So I think this episode just hit me like a hammer. But I was having so much fun, I didn't realize that it hit me like a hammer until I'm already like on the post credit scene.
Right. It's like you said before, very well balanced with I think having the Economos Fleury stuff being the funny stuff, while then the Peacemaker Harcourt stuff is like the emotional heart of the episode that
Hmm.
that you know uh you're getting frustrated, I think, that she isn't opening up to him because he's laying it out on the line here a bit when he's like, look, I can see it because I'm the same way, and she just kind of shuts him down with
Hmm.
like, no, you just want me to be like that, and you need me to be like that. So she's
Right.
putting up a wall immediately, which then ends up making him push away. And what does he do instead? He finds himself texting his ex Amelia from the alternate universe, right? And
Hmm.
uh
Hardcore too, right? Yeah.
yeah, hardcore too. And so much so, like, yeah, he gives it a shot. It doesn't go through because he's in an alternate universe. But that's not where it ends. So you know what? He says, F it. I don't care if they can track this right now. I'm going in there and I'm going to uh, send this text. And what I believe is, from what we see in the trailer, I guess for next week, Chris, is that this is going to be a big focus of episode 3 here, where he's almost assuming the life of Peacemaker 2 since he is dead. So, um, uh,
Hmm.
so I'm very looking forward to next week. The unfortunate part of that is I am on vacation next week, so I will not be on the podcast for it. But Ron is supposed to fill in for me, so Ron and Chris will still have you Soups and Sabers coverage of Peacemaker season 2. But anyway, let's kind of dive in a little deeper here, where we start off with this episode, because I actually really dug the beginning of this, and that's where I kind of it set the stage
Hmm.
very intriguing for me, because in a flashback 8 months ago, Johnny Economos is leading Rick Flag Sr., who has just been named acting director of Argus, to his office. And we kind of get some you know some quick story beats of like the president elevated him to Argus director because there wasn't a lot of other options, and because of Waller doing her congressional hearings that we're kind of familiar with from being alluded to in Creature Commandos. And um, Flag, at the beginning of this um, episode here, as he takes the role, does what I think any parent would do if his son was killed in action and the files were classified, which is get me the unclassified files of my son's death. And we immediately get Economos kind of like worrying about what that would mean, because Economos was there during the Suicide Squad, and then he became friends with Peacemaker later. and he's like, "Oh, I know how bad this is probably going to look for Chris," and it kind of sets the stage of, hey, everything that was done there was, under the orders of Amanda Waller, like, and I just love Rick Flag being like, just get me the effing files.
Yep. I was
And
a
then
little
yeah.
confused how some of the information was in those files. I was a little confused how they knew the last words "Peacemaker." What a joke!
Ratcatcher
And
2.
like, did they have like a camera inside?
No, Ratcatcher overheard that,
There you
right?
go.
It cuts to her getting the drive from there, so she heard and saw all of that.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Fair enough.
Yep. Which means, guess what? Ratcatcher 2 is canon to the DCU. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I don't need James Gunn to say it. I'll say it. But no, what I really liked about this is getting flashbacks to the Suicide Squad. That is, one of my favorite superhero movies of all time, and getting that, it's a James Gunn movie. Of course, he's going to allude to it. He's been alluding to it since Creature Commandos, even, right? When they talked about Weasel, Project Starfish, they've mentioned Corto Maltese. Like Rick Flag Sr. mentioned his son dying in Corto Maltese. All of that stuff we kind of knew already happened, but seeing like actual scenes from the movie, I'm like, yeah, that movie is mostly canon, right? There might be some recasts. There might
Yeah.
be some things that maybe Bloodsport didn't shoot a kryptonite bullet at Superman, but most of that stuff is canon, it seems. So
Well,
it's good.
we
It's
know that
already in
he
my head
didn't
canon
shoot.
anyway.
Oh,
It's already
right,
yeah.
right. Okay. We know that Bloodsport didn't shoot him because in Superman we saw that this was the first battle he had lost.
I can
So
still make it work. He got shot with the kryptonite bullet, yeah, but before he goes in the ICU, he still takes down Bloodsport. Boom. He didn't lose.
okay. Um, he certainly didn't win though. If
Yeah.
that's
Well,
the
yeah.
case, if he's in the ICU.
It was a draw. But no, I mean,
All right.
yeah, and also
So
like
so he has
timeline
to lose the
wise,
season. Okay, gotcha.
yeah, timeline wise, I think too, like it'd probably be a little tougher to fit in him having been in the ICU at any time during his 3 years. So I do think that part's not canon or whatever, but you could still make it work if you wanted to, but mostly I do think most of that movie is good to go.
Yeah, I agree.
We also get um oh yeah, so we also get Flag in the flashback telling Sasha Bordeaux that he is prioritizing surveillance of Peacemaker, and she kind of pushes back a bit, like, hey, he's in good standing with us due to Project Butterfly, and he doesn't really care.
Hmm. Yeah, he's like, fuck the Peacemaker.
Yeah,
Literally.
he says, Peacemaker, what a
And
joke
I feel
that
like,
guy is.
yeah, I feel like he's doing the natural thing. Like it doesn't. There's nothing you could tell him that would make Peacemaker okay.
Yeah, no, I think I really enjoyed the intro here, because not just because of the suicide connection, but getting a little bit more of Rick Flag and kind of seeing how he got placed in power, how immediately after he became director he started looking into this type of stuff, because this is a character that we are familiar with. He is somebody that was in, Creature Commandos. Um, he's not somebody that everybody is familiar with, because I'm sure more people are watching Peacemaker than have watched Creature Commandos, but uh it's a good way to kind of set it up for the people that may have missed Creature Commandos, because he I don't think he comes off super like villainous in this intro. This is a very like you said, very natural, like I said at the top of the show, this is something that somebody would do, I feel like. If your son was killed in action and it was classified, and now you are in the you have the ability to unseal those files and see what actually happened. Why would it be classified? Let me see if they're hiding something from me. Oh, they were hiding something from me. And um I think that works for motivation, and it kind of really sets the stage for that too. Also, if you haven't watched the Suicide Squad, which there are people that have definitely started watching Peacemaker without watching that movie, um we've seen some of these clips. Like, I think the Peacemaker What a Joke is shown briefly in season 1. But seeing it a little bit more here with Rick Flag Sr. reading the file makes me think, like, that's probably good enough to introduce the concept to people and let people understand what's happening. And then if they're like, man, where's this footage coming from? They can go check out the movie if they want.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like the DCU actually has a lot more bones to it than you would think for it just starting, because the
Yeah.
Suicide Squad is grandfathered in, because Peacemaker, because Creature Commandos, Superman.
Yep.
We're already kind of like in we're in phase one, but we're already like pushing out some projects. So, and we got Supergirl in the can. So the DCU has a lot more meat on it than you would expect them to at this point of the journey.
Clayface is filming this weekend, supposedly. So, I mean, yeah, we're moving ahead. We're moving ahead. Um, yeah, I think what is interesting is I know some people think they should have just done the wiping the slate clean to start over. I'm actually a fan of how we're doing it right now, just because it is keeping stuff that I really like compared to the stuff I didn't like as
Yeah.
much. But I I think I would be curious to know, like, where he would have gone with the DCU if he took this job and he hadn't had a chance to make anything before this. Like, let's say they had offered him this job right after Guardians 3, but he didn't make the Suicide Squad in between those. Like, I wonder, like, is Rick Flag Sr. still playing a role, or is, like, Rick Flag Jr. playing the role? Like, I really
Yeah, that's
wonder,
a good
like,
question.
what his picks would have been. Obviously, we wouldn't have Peacemaker because we wouldn't have the Suicide Squad, which would have led to that. So it would have been a whole different thing. But I'm really glad at what they're keeping and what they've kind of discarded at this point. And I think for casuals, it is
There's
easy enough.
it's
I
working.
think, yeah, I think people worry too much about, like I said last week. I think people worry too much about canon, what's not canon. It does seem like I said, most of the Suicide Squad is canon. That's all you really have to know. Maybe if Harley shows up, she's played by Margot Robbie. Maybe she's not, right? That's the kind of stuff that'll come down to negotiations, and we'll figure that out later. But
But that could
that's
happen
normal
in any
stuff.
other universe anyway.
Yes, exactly. We've
Yeah.
seen that, right? Like Terrence Howard being
Hmm.
replaced by Don Cheadle, right? Like, it happens.
And in that case, that was for such a benefit of the MCU.
It was, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we
So
get
yeah.
we get all right, let's dive into Langston Fleury here. So we get him
Yeah.
introduced
This guy's awesome.
to be watching. He's watching Economos due to Sasha Bordeaux's orders and Rick Flag's orders, and he comes in, and immediately he won me over when he's like, you know, what's your type of greeting? Handshake, fist bump, like, hug? Are you a hugger? And he just starts really riffing here, especially like he goes in and steals one of Economos's nuggets. He, calls him Ginger Cool, which not a bad nickname. I would much prefer that to dye a beard. So I'm not sure
Well,
why
Ginger
Economos
Cool sounds like
pushes
a
back.
yeah. Well, Ginger Cool sounds like a soda. Like it sounds like, yeah, hey, can you get me a Ginger Cool out of the fridge?
Yeah, exactly. Ginger Cool. Um, he says it quite a few times, even when Economos is pushing back, and Economos just has to keep being like, "Really?" But we find out this is his thing. Nicknames are his thing, because when we get introduced to his new task squad, we get Encino Man, right? Mexicali,
Yep.
we get Titties, and we get Pony Boy, which then turns into a few other names because he pushes back on Pony Boy so much. Yeah, I mean, this was he had me dying, especially with like the earnestness when like Titties is bleeding out and he's like, "Hold on, Titties," like.
Well, it's funny because it's obviously like he can't remember people's names, so he doesn't even try. And like it's like his shtick, but it's that he seems like a real person under all of that like bravado and all that. But the bird blindness is the thing that gets me. I'm just like
Yes.
I was attacked by a duck. I still can't get over that. I was laughing
Yeah,
so
well, we get
hard.
introduced
And,
to it.
and
We get introduced to it with like the Eagly stepping out, and he's like, what's with the parrot, right? And Economos is like, "That's an eagle. That's like the symbol of America." What do you mean? He's like, "Oh, I got bird blindness." And you think for a time he is messing with
you think it's joking?
Economos. Yes,
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
his sole flaw,
it's on
right?
brand with Ginger Cool and all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
so flaw. He's like the one thing I don't do well. The one thing.
And
That's
if you
the
listen
fucking
to James
worst.
Gunn's podcast, you will learn, of course, if people are listening to that it is based off of face blindness, of course, which is a real thing, and one of James Gunn's friends has face blindness, and he thought it would be funny about bird blindness, and because if you can have that where you can't recognize faces, maybe you can't recognize birds, right? And they were joking on the podcast
I'm
about,
still dying.
they're joking on the podcast about like, oh, this is probably something that's never afflicted him in his life in the mission. And of course, it affects him here when he cannot shoot Eagly because he doesn't know how big the bird is because he can't recognize the different types of birds.
I love how in Peacemaker, when the people shooting at the heroes miss, there's a built-in reason. But it's not like it's just in Star Wars where it's
Like a
like
stormtrooper,
convenience
yeah.
of plot that no stormtrooper has ever hit anything. But like I can't hit you because I don't know how big the bird is. Just hilarious to me. Just it's one of those James Gunn touches that is just like, and like the fact of the matter is, you got me to go along with bird blindness. You are a genius.
Right. But yeah, so we get some good stuff with Langston Fleury there. Tim Meadows is great. He absolutely killed it in this episode. I know I'd seen some people say that it didn't really work for them, or that maybe it was a little too much, but for me, it was the right amount. I really love Tim
Oh,
Meadows as him.
I want Tim Meadows to be a big part of every episode. That guy's hilarious. Yes, he won me over.
Yes.
I mean, I already know I like the actor. He's been in a lot of stuff,
Oh yeah,
but
He
yeah,
is. I
yeah.
mean, he's probably most famous for SNL. He was on there for like 10 years. Um, he's been in um, Mean Girls. I also recognize him from The Office. He plays in one of my favorite episodes. He is a local businessman that Michael Scott is uh, trying to sell paper to in season 2, episode 11. The Client, I believe, is what episode number that is. And then he's also in I Think You Should Leave. He's in a great sketch on that one. Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff. He's really funny.
Yep.
Yeah, just really great role there. But yeah, I mean, because this is a guy like it really is a role where you have to kind of be careful, I would say. Um, because the way it is written, I think it can come across over the top. Uh, and I think he does play him a little, I would say, over the top, but it works. It's bordering a line, I think, when Tim Meadows is playing this
Yep.
role, where I can't imagine any other actor providing that. Um,
Well, James Gunn couldn't either because
yeah,
he said in his podcast he had hundreds of people trying to get this role, and he
yep.
ended up just saying, "All right, we got to find this guy because uh, this ain't working." So I feel like it was almost written probably accidentally for this actor.
Yeah, and you get the great lines about like, uh when we see Adrian Chase and he says, "Oh, that guy looks like he caught all the Pokemans," right? And Economos kind of going back and forth with him. But then we get the extended scene of that in the post-credit scene, right? Where they're kind of I'm guessing a really great improv, I
Yeah.
assume, right? Where it felt very yes
Yeah.
and where like, oh, I
I
was
honestly wish that was in the actual episode.
yeah, I
Like I
wish I
wish that
was
because I feel like it was better in the post credit scene than it was in the like
I
it
think they
was
just
pretty
it, right?
hilarious. And, yeah.
Because like he mentions like, oh, I was doing when you were catching Pokemon or whatever, I was having sex with two women or whatever, right? And then Economos keeps kind of probing him of questions about it to the point where like he says their names. He says it was in Portland, Oregon, and
Yep.
it just and then Economos being like, oh, they were hot, huh? He's like, yeah, super hot. Which I don't know if I can believe is true, but we thought the bird blindness was fake, so maybe he was having relations with those two women. I don't know.
It's the perfect line of whatever you want to believe there.
Yeah. So uh we also have during this going on. Let's move on from I guess the Argus crew, but their whole point is when Chris goes to the rooftop party with them, they are going to go in and investigate his place. Eagly puts a stop to that and has a great scene where he rips out somebody's eye.
Best thing I've ever seen a CGI animal do. It is the best thing I've ever seen a CGI animal do, including Rocket.
I don't
It's
know. I think
incredible.
Rocket
Eagly,
still takes the cake when it comes to
well,
doing
probably,
feats.
but it was so damn good. It was incredible, dude. When he ripped out the eye and you just see the eye against the moon, I was
Yeah,
like, that
yeah.
shot is iconic. It was like, is this a Quentin Tarantino film? This is great.
Well, no, because if it's a Quentin Tarantino film, it'd be horrible. So there's a hot take for everybody.
Okay.
Sorry, I watched Pulp Fiction last year or 2 years ago, and it was dreadful. We we also get a great scene here when we're talking about everybody wants to go in as soon as Peacemaker leaves, and I was on Team Langston Fleury here because I was like, yeah, if he forgets something, turns around. But then apparently he takes people housewarming gifts every time he goes over somebody's house.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I got to get
No,
this
it's
guy's
not uncommon
number.
to like get a glass of. Yeah, yeah. It's not uncommon to get a bottle of wine for somebody or something when you go over to the house. But like, it's not a housewarming gift every time you go over.
Right, right.
That was just hilarious. But as a guy with ADHD who leaves the house 6 times before he leaves the house, this was a good sound practice. I've often driven back to my house because I forgot something.
Yeah. And then all they would really, well, yeah, I guess they don't. I was gonna say they could have somebody watching Economos and just say like, "Hey, Peacemaker arrived here," and then you're good to go in. So,
That would make sense.
yeah, I think that would work super well for what they're doing. During this, we also have
The rooftop scene didn't make any sense, by the way.
what do you mean?
There was not nearly enough beer consumed for them to be that drunk. It's
They had
Bud
two
Lights
cases.
especially.
They had 2 cases of beer.
I don't think they went through 2 cases of beer, and it takes a lot of Bud Light to get shit faced.
Everybody has their own limits.
Well, Adrian's limit is obviously one. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? He may not drink a lot, right? Like my limit would be totally different because I don't drink, so that would be I probably would be a sip or so, and I'm probably feeling it.
I don't think so. I think half a beer, you're getting you get a little weird. Full beer, you're feeling it, but yeah. No, I feel like I'd have to drink 3 Bud Lights before I even got a little bit buzzed.
Really? So are you? How many to get you to dance in your tidy whities while they're
You,
pouring beer on you?
you're
How many is that?
you're gonna need liquor for that.
Okay.
You're gonna need liquor for that, guaranteed. Rum and cokes, yeah, that's 4 or 5 rum and cokes.
All right. Well, tell us in the comments if you are listening or
All right.
watching how many it would take you to do the Adrian Chase uh, beer shower. Okay,
To
but
be fair, my mom had the same complaint that she's like, "There's no way they're drunk enough to be acting this drunk."
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they had more than just that, and we didn't see it.
Okay.
Like maybe somebody brought liquor and then Adrian bought the beer. Who knows? Um, so Harcourt is spending this episode. She knows she has this party that she's going to, and she's actually hosting it at her rooftop. So she goes to a pharmacy to buy some like makeup cover up stuff, try to cover up some of these bruises a bit. And she does, I would say, a mostly good job, except for like the eyebrow one that's kind of like a stitching above there. Um, but she gets into it a bit here with some people. This just kind of shows what her limit currently is. I feel like season 1 Amelia Harcourt was still, I would say, a hard ass, like kind of mean at times, don't talk to me type of person. I'm not sure if she would have snapped at like a regular lady coming up to her in season 1. So we kind of see where she's going on this trajectory so far. Because this lady's coming up to her thinking she's been abused and is kind of telling her like, hey, there is I can help
To
you.
be fair, she like got rebuffed by Harcourt. Like she's
And
like,
kept
"Hey,
pushing. Yeah.
someone else, come on," and it kept pushing. So it was after like I think it was the 4th time she said something where she lost it, which I feel is very reasonable and irrational. Um, so yes, she caught her at a bad time and she exploded, unlike a normal situation. But there is nobody who wouldn't be annoyed in that situation. So yeah, I thought that was rational for hardcore.
See, I don't know. I don't know if I would say rational. I think I understand why she snapped, but
She got
um
pushed. She got pushed there. She didn't come into the thing ready to blow up. She got pushed there. It wasn't going to
yeah,
take
but
much as it would if she was like healthily dispositioned, but
yeah,
she
I
did
just
get
don't.
pushed there.
I also don't know if you need to say the line, like, "Do I look like a mirror?" Because she's she's being very harsh to the lady, insinuating about like you know, uh,
Yeah.
it's a very low blow for the lady. I feel like there. So But I'll say she has a really great comeback when she with the looking at the tall guy and calling him Beaker, one of the Muppets. He did look like Beaker. But I really enjoyed the back and forth with that guy and the other customer where, he's like, is that a bad thing? And she's like, it's not a good thing.
that was that was pretty realistic. I love the show because it feels lived in. Like the people on
Yeah.
the side like have the reactions that you would think they would have. Um, Most shows that they just cut as she walks out the door. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So we get so that's mostly Harcourt's story here until we get to the rooftop party. With Adebayo, she decides to go back to her ex-wife's apartment. And one, she gets a nice welcome with the dogs, and I felt happy for her to be able to see her doggies, because that's kind of one of the things I feel like would be the hardest. One of the hardest parts of a breakup, I feel like, would be, if there was kids involved or if there's dogs involved, pets involved, because you feel like you get to know, especially if you're seeing that dog like every day, and then the breakup happens or whatever, you end up, I feel like, just as much as you're probably mourning the loss of your boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, you're probably mourning the loss of that relationship too. And the dog doesn't understand what happened either. And that's the thing too. So like dogs will miss people. So I feel like that's a very realistic thing here of the dogs flooding over to her, and her being very excited to see them and calling her, like calling them the babies and stuff. Like, it was very, very felt realistic there. And then we get the scene with her ex-wife Kia, who is getting ready for work. She works at Jitters. How about that?
Yep. And anytime I get jitters, I'm like, that makes me happy. It's good.
Yeah, great.
I
James Gunn mentioned it on the podcast, right?
I
Like, it was originally in comics, but he also did mention that like it's a big location in the Grant Gustin Flash series. He had nice things to say about Grant, so that was cool.
Yeah, and as a guy who just wants Grant to be the DCU Flash, it's not going to happen. But I'm all for that.
Yeah.
That's a whole other conversation. But I would just say you got a good Flash, keep him.
I am so on the side of Adebayo here.
Yeah.
When Kia says, we were supposed to move back to Gotham, I was like, well, I'm Team Adebayo.
Why would you want to move back to Gotham? First off,
Hey, look,
why would
maybe
you want to
she's
live
from there.
in Gotham?
Maybe Kia's from there.
Maybe they got family.
Yeah, I don't know. It's home.
But look, but Gotham is a tough sell. Like that's a like you could see why someone would maybe not want to go back to Gotham.
Especially compared to like Evergreen, which is a very feel like very low crime area.
Yeah, ironically, for a home of vigilante, yeah, or two vigilantes.
And that's the thing too. Like, if there is a lot of crime, okay, vigilante can take care of them.
Yeah.
So,
but I thought she was unfair to Adebayo. I thought she was unfair to Adebayo. She didn't really break in. Breaking in is a bit of a
she has a
charged word there, right?
And
then I felt horrible for her because she said "I love you," and then she doesn't say anything back,
no
and she walks out the
back.
door. That has to be very hard.
Yeah, that is not good. So from what we understand is that they are maybe maybe Adebayo really wants to make this work out. Maybe Kia is a little bit more on the side of it not working out. But my question would be like, why didn't Kia move back to Gotham then?
Yep.
Because now she has nothing holding her here. Why is she still here?
Well,
So
that's why I think Adebayo doesn't think it's over.
exactly,
Like I feel like
that's my
Adebayo's
point.
like
Yeah.
she would have just
Yep.
taken off. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So
So
obviously, I think she's putting up a little bit of a front here, Kia, and
mhm.
um, we'll
She's
see. But
acting tough.
she mentions that she's going on her way to meet Peacemaker, and she's kind of like, "Why are you going to hang out with that guy?" Maybe because he saved the fucking world. I don't know. That would be my answer. But she's going there. She has to ask the question that Economos did when it's her to ask, which is the picture, the picture of the quantum unfolding chamber, and getting more information on that. But Chris is calling somebody. The orgy's over, right? We're seeing people.
Hmm.
Though one of the guys asked for coffee, which I thought was great. Like, okay, yeah, like Peacemaker
Yeah,
was like,
coffee,
yeah,
sure.
fine,
Like
all right, sure, whatever. Um,
I love how Chris isn't an asshole. Like he's like, yeah, sure, you want coffee, you can have coffee. Like, like I feel like
yeah, yeah.
that's a very human moment. And like so many other people could have been just like, get the fuck out of my house.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of waiting for. It's like, get out of here. But he calls somebody. I figured it'd be Vigilante because him asking about the bone saws.
Hmm.
Um, Especially how we know how much he loves saws. He wanted to kill somebody with a chainsaw,
Yeah.
right? So, um, but we get this great scene with once Adrian does show up, and we get Adrian and Peacemaker. One, he's like kind of hurt that he wasn't invited to the orgy, right? Not because it's sex, but because he uses sex to bond with his best friends, like most people.
Sorry, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I use it to bond with my best friend as well, but that's because my wife is my best friend.
It works out very well that way.
Yeah.
Um,
Cue the
hey,
sound
like,
effect.
A-
Oh, right.
uh, Adrian, if you're into that, there's nothing wrong with that. You might want to say it though.
Yeah, yeah. He seems very like I was talking with Jack about this. Like he seems very like Ace. Like he probably
Yeah.
is a little asexual, doesn't really actually care. Like that's what I kind of get from that vibe. It's just because we do
Hmm.
see him have sex with Peacemaker and the girl from the apartment in season 1 that he took hostage. So they do have a threesome there, but we now know he didn't do that because of the sex. He did that to bond with Peacemaker. So adds a little
I
layer
feel like
there
he
to it.
just wants to be included in things.
Yes. Yep.
So like he lacks intimacy in his life, and any intimacy at of any kind, he's gonna be like, all right, I'll do it. I don't really get it, but I'll do it.
And let me tell you, what was better than sex for him is probably cutting up alternate Peacemaker.
Oh,
And
he
Chris,
loved doing that.
this scene was a little hard for me to watch. Um,
I didn't have a problem with it.
I had to keep telling myself it was
Um
fake, but the decapitated
like
head
in
and the
real life,
eye,
right.
yikes.
Like in real life, I was the guy who I really couldn't dissect a frog in science class. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't do it. It's like it's felt wrong. It's not. It seems like it seems impure to me. Like it's just something that I could like. But on a TV screen, like fine, do what you want to do. But I know my mom had a hard time with that scene. She was that and the eyeball flying out in the air. She did not like.
See, I had no problem with the Eagly stuff. It was really more of like
Yeah.
seeing the arms and like the head with
Hmm.
like, especially when they uncover him and he's got like one eye like drooping and one eye closed, and it was like,
Hmm.
okay.
My
Now I
my
did.
favorite part of that though, I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
My favorite part was the alien coming in, and he's like, "Who's that?" He's like, "Just some asshole who never says hi, no
Yes.
matter how
Yeah.
many times I introduce myself."
Yeah. Exactly. He's had it with the alien. But the alien. Uh, was coming back to burn it. You called this though. You said they were going to incinerate the body and
Yep.
the thing there, so that was good job. I didn't really put that together
Yeah, I was a
until
little.
you mentioned it.
I was a little nervous about my prediction when he like starts stuffing it in like the little
Oh yeah, and it
thing,
keeps
and
falling
then he doesn't
out.
fit, and it's like, yeah. um, and I was like, I don't know about if they could be heard in this dimension, but they were pretty loud. I don't
Yeah,
think you.
yeah.
I'm
I don't
taking
think
that you
so.
can't be heard. Yeah.
No, unless if you're already in there. So like I feel like you would have to open up the door and then see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they dispose of the body, but as they're doing that, the phone falls out and Chris swipes it. And this is what, he's going to look at, and we're going to see him look at pictures of alternate Amelia Harcourt and these pictures of them um in a relationship and on his phone,
Yep.
and he realizes like, man, he's looking at it very longingly, like, right, like I need this, this is what I want. So he keeps the phone, and like we mentioned earlier, eventually he'll go back to it, but he comes home and is comes home from the rooftop party when they're doing that, and he's drunk and is drunk texting his ex-girlfriend, but the difference is she lives in an alternate universe, and then that's where he goes in
Hmm.
back to the quantum unfolding chamber and is going to send it there. We kind of hear Augie in the background talking about looking for Chris. I guess it's been a day or two, right? So they're kind of worried about where he would be. They also mentioned there was some blood on the door. That's probably our Chris's blood due to the ninja stars, right? The magic
The
stars that were.
stars. Yep.
Um, so they're a little worried about Chris. So I assume here he's going to kind of take the place of him and um, hope that it will heal him, right? Because again, this is another instance here where he's drinking to maybe help forget, especially after the conversation with Harcourt on the rooftop, and it doesn't work, right? So the next thing is, let me text her and let me actually make sure it sends, and that is where he is at mentally. And I think he's going to chill there. From
Yep.
the trailer, it looks like this is where we're going to get most of this other world that we've seen from the trailers, right? Like him riding the motorcycle,
Yeah.
going to
And it's
see
probably a
alternate.
good thing for him to stay over there.
Yeah, because right now they're looking
He
for him, right?
probably, yeah, right. So if he stays over the alternate universe for a few days, a lot of he could just go off of him natural.
Yeah, I this is what I'm curious, because they've, Adebayo says, hey, they might use this to send you back to prison and take it out of there. How would you take the quantum unfolding chamber? Do you think they can just take the keypad and stick it to another door, or like, how
No,
does
I
this
feel like
work?
they have to take the house.
Okay.
I feel like they would take the house because they're not going to know if they can do that, even if they could do that, and they're not going to want to like risk a like dimensional rift. My
Yeah, true.
question is, if he opens it to on the other side. So if say he's in that world and he opens the thing, do they get a signal that he's using it, or is it only when he opens it on his side?
I think it's only when he opens it on our side, because I don't think it
Mhm.
affects anything or else every time uh any time he the alien goes through would ding as well. So I do think it's anytime he uses it, because it's what's opening up
Yeah.
the bridge to our
I
world.
also don't understand why. I also don't understand why Augie and Keith didn't go into the uh the pocket dimension from their side. You just
Yeah,
think they know about it.
they do because they have the helmets there, right? Like, so
Yep.
and we also see like in the first episode when he first runs into Augie, he runs back through it, right? And he sees him run through it. So I think he just thinks that was
Yep.
his Chris, like working on something
Mhm.
or leaving the room for a bit. But um maybe they just don't think he would have went through there. I don't know. That's the thing, like we don't know. I guess we don't know how much they know about it or like what they use it for. So it seems like they use it for the same like here's
Right.
our helmet storage stuff. This is where we make stuff type of thing. But I would assume because of the fact that has been so happy in that universe that maybe there's been no thought that like he would be longing for something else or going in there.
Yeah, it's not a case of the grass is greener in the other universe.
Right, right. Because for him, everything seems to be pretty good. He's a member of the top
Yeah.
trio. You know, he- he's famous. He's a hero. Like maybe there's nothing else he would really want, so they don't really see it as him. Like, oh, maybe he went in there and escaped, or went to somewhere else, or is exploring it. Um, but yeah, no, I'll be curious to kind of see their relationship with that door more. Like I kind of hope we get some like thoughts on it from Keith and from Augie. Um,
Yeah.
do they start suspecting stuff? Because Keith had already kind of been more like, "Hey, you're kind of acting different." And it looks like in the trailer he
Well,
says something about that next week too.
uh, well, if you notice, though, it was like really just the Peacemaker stuff was there. So maybe it's Chris's door anyway. Maybe it's not Augie's door. Maybe it's Chris's door. That's where he keeps his stuff. Maybe the pocket dimension is entirely on him in this world.
Maybe, maybe. Yeah, and then we get so let me see. I have my notes here. I guess that's mostly it. We don't really know. Fleury and his team are mostly okay. I think they're going to take off. Um, and Harcourt left the party kind of upset. The last we saw is like Adrian, Adebayo, and uh, Economos were doing the partying, drinking and dancing.
Hmm.
So we'll kind of pick up on that. But they're all in that very similar spot right now of kind of putting on a facade, right? I would say everybody
Hmm.
except for Vigilante, right? Because you have Adebayo, who is hurt with what's going on with her with her wife and her and that relationship, but she kind of has to put on a front, I think, here in front of everybody of like everything's good, I'm starting my business type thing, right? And then we have Economos, who has to also put on a front here when he has to act like he hasn't seen Adebayo for a while, even though they just saw each other like a night or two ago, because in his mind, right, like he just saw her, but to everybody else's mind, this is his coming back home party. He is not supposed to have been here, but he's been watching Peacemaker, and that is, something that he can't really let, I guess, slip. Obviously, I think Peacemaker knows, especially when Adebayo says, "I got this information from somebody on the inside," and he says, "Oh, I'm gonna act like I, don't know who that is." Um, so,
Hmm.
but he's also having to hide from Langston Fleury and stuff that like he is this close to Peacemaker and the gang, right? Um, uh, because of the implications of that. And then we have Harcourt, who's acting like everything's fine after she got in her fight, and then of course we have Chris, who's acting like everything is fine even though he is really going through some stuff. So Vigilante is the only one that really, at this point, has not really had to be
Vigilante's
hiding
this
anything.
Vigilante.
Right.
No, it's
He is.
interesting because on the Peacemaker podcast, James Gunn said there was a moment where Vigilante surprised him and kind of changed, but he had thought he was
Yeah.
unable to change. But yeah, he definitely seems unable to change in like episodes like these.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So I'm really, really curious to see what that means for, the next batch of episodes here where he's talking about, where he mentions that Vigilante surprised him while writing it and that he has does have some, change in him. Yeah. Okay. Anything else about this episode that we didn't really touch on? A very good character based episode. I don't think there's too many what's it called? Too many like Easter eggs or anything in this.
No, you know, I'm still in the bird blindness thing. It's maybe my favorite thing from a television show. It's just so hilarious. I feel like I'm going to be saying bird blindness as a thing. Is this like a joke for like ever now?
Oh yeah, anytime you don't know what type of bird that is and you ask somebody, just be like, "Sorry, I have bird blindness." I really like too when
It's
they
still the
mentioned
funniest thing.
when Economos says, ask him about like hummingbirds. And he's like, "Yeah, the little birds that like flap their wings a lot and or whatever." He's like, "Yeah, I read about that in a book, which is how I learned things or whatever." I was like, "Okay." Like he understands the differences between them. He just can't tell the difference between them when he sees it.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Imagine watching a documentary and not being able to understand any of that stuff going on.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I think we hit it. It's
yeah,
pretty good.
yeah. I thought it was a very strong episode. Like we mentioned, I think it was really great. I think next week is going to be a real game changer when it comes to, I think we're going to get the return of Judo Master. Because I think from what I'm piecing together from the trailer for next week, along with the trailers we've seen already, is they're going to get Michael Rooker's character who will be learning, which is like an eagle hunter. So that way they can maybe get revenge back on Eagly, or they're thinking if you follow the Eagly, you get to Peacemaker, right? Like something along those lines. And then I think they're also going to, from what I remember of the trailer, that they are walking to like a van and open it up and there's Judo Master with his Cheetos. So I do think maybe that would be next week or maybe that's the week after, but I think that's a good thing. And I think most of the episode for Chris's perspective will be in that alternate universe. And we'll look, here's the title of it. And I think this confirms some things. It's called Another Rick Up My Sleeve. I think we get Joel Kinnaman back as Rick Flag Jr. And I think that's who Amelia Harcourt is dating in the alternate universe.
That's some bitch. Yeah, I think you're
right. So I'm very excited for that because I love Joel Kinnaman. And they alluded to that. I really think that maybe he would be the secret guest they were talking about for the Peacemaker podcast. Because, sometimes they'll usually say who's going to be on there, but they said a special guest and they didn't really say who. So I think Joel Kinnaman would fit perfect as a guest for that. And, be able to talk to him about his time at the Suicide Squad, coming back for this, and I'm really excited because Rick Flag Jr. is one of my favorite characters in the DCEU. So very happy that Joel Kinnaman is playing him again here in some version of the DCU.
Yeah, man.
All right.
I'm excited. Can it be Thursday night? I love the show.
Well, that'll wrap us up here at Supes and Sabers on all of our social media for following us. If you want to check us out there, like I mentioned, next week I will not be on the podcast. I'll be out of town. So Chris and Ron should be holding down the fort, talking about which will probably be my favorite episode of the season. Just from the trailer, I think it looks really great. So very I'll give my thoughts on that when we talk episode 4, I guess, as well. But we're moving along here. 2 of the 8 episodes are done. The critics have seen the first 5, so we're getting closer and closer to being level with the critics. And then these last 3 episodes are supposed to have some really big things, as James Gunn said. So very looking forward to the rest of the season, which I think is off to a really great start. Thank you all for watching and listening along. We will catch you next time talking episode 3 of Peacemaker.